Welcome to Technauts, a podcast by Inwedo, where we explore how innovation works in practice. Today, we're getting into Polaris, a quality framework that keeps IT delivery predictable. Software quality failures cost the industry trillions annually, yet quality in most teams remains either accidental, shaped by who's on the project and how much time they have, or bureaucratic, living in process documents nobody follows. We created Polaris to escape that trap. Here's how we built it, what changed, and how you can adapt it. Quality problems in software development reveal themselves through their consequences. A production bug that could have been caught in testing, a client blindsided by what gets delivered, a new developer who takes twice as long to onboard because documentation doesn't exist. The problem isn't careless developers or unreasonable stakeholders. It's that both sides lack a shared reference point for what quality means, clear criteria for trade-offs when timelines shift, and visibility into whether standards hold up when pressure mounts. This gets addressed from opposite ends. Tech leads institute obligatory code reviews and testing standards, practices that work when there's time, but get deprioritized when deadlines loom. Business stakeholders push for more visibility through status updates and approval gates, controls that provide a sense of oversight but don't reveal whether quality holds up under the surface. The result? Project delivery oscillates between improvisation and bureaucracy. In one mode, quality depends on who happens to be available and how much time they have. In the other, you create processes, write checklists, mandate review gates, and teams comply on paper while routing around them in practice. Either way, quality stays inconsistent. What you actually need is different from both extremes. A system rigorous enough to survive deadline pressure so quality doesn't disappear when things get hard. Flexible enough to adapt, whether you're running a 3-person MVP or a 30-person enterprise build, and transparent enough that everyone, developers, managers, clients, can see whether it's working or just being claimed. Is that even possible? We faced this question in 2022, but from a different angle. ISO 27001 and ISO 9001 certification required us to document our processes with auditable detail. That external requirement triggered something valuable, an internal audit of how we actually worked. We mapped the entire customer journey, from initial workshops through implementation to maintenance, and looked for risks at every stage. The audit revealed that we had strong practices, but they varied by project. Testing that sometimes happened too late. Technical debt accumulating under deadline pressure. Onboarding taking longer than it should. Quality depended on project history and circumstance, not on a systematic approach. As we grew, that became a problem we couldn't ignore. So we went deeper and analyzed our entire project portfolio, looking for patterns. Which projects delivered on time and within budget? Which ones struggled? What separated the successful ones from the rest? We noticed that successful projects had 3 forces working together: product decisions, technical execution, and continuous QA, all moving in sync. Because a project with excellent code but poor client communication still fails. A project with clear requirements but weak testing still ships bugs. You need all 3, not just 1 or 2. That's when we decided to organize our delivery standard around those 3 forces, turning each into a pillar with clear scope and ownership. The North Star has guided sailors for centuries, a constant point they could count on. Polaris isn't actually 1 star, though. It's a triple star system, 3 forces bound together, appearing as one reliable reference point. We borrowed that structure. The framework we built has 3 pillars. Product and process ensures teams know what they're building and why, owned by delivery lead. Technology and development maintains engineering rigor from code to deployment, owned by head of engineering. Documentation and testing guarantees. Everything is documented and verified, owned by QA lead. Each pillar owner maintains the standard for their domain, shares patterns across projects, and mentors teams when they hit obstacles. They meet regularly with project-level leads to discuss challenges, suggest improvements rather than mandate them, and step in as consultants when teams need support. They coach, they don't enforce. Across these three pillars, we codified 57 practices that consistently move the needle on project outcomes. They emerged from cross-team workshops and retrospectives, distilled from what actually worked. Some were obvious: automated testing, clear acceptance criteria. Others emerged from pattern recognition. Projects with regular client communication summaries had fewer scope disputes. Projects with documented architectural decisions onboarded new developers faster. 57 sounds overwhelming, and it would be if you had to implement everything at once. But that's not how it works. The framework is a diagnostic map, not a checklist. It shows every area that can affect project quality. Teams assess their context, complexity, timeline, risk profile, and activate what matters most. A lean startup project might focus on core practices, basic DOR/DOD, testing critical paths, lightweight documentation. A regulated enterprise build needs the full depth, comprehensive testing gates, formal documentation, security scans, audit trails. The list isn't static. When delivery evolves, Polaris evolves with it. We added ML ops practices when AI projects became standard work. But when teams struggled with end-to-end testing, we didn't mandate it in the framework. We provided tooling and training that made implementation actually feasible. We've documented all 57 practices in a free ebook, including the rationale behind each one and when to skip it. You can find the link in the episode description. So, we had the framework on paper. Now came the real test. Did our projects actually live up to it? We used Polaris as a diagnostic tool to find out. We started by auditing every active project against the Polaris standard. Every project, every team, evaluated across all three pillars. This gave us a heat map showing where each project stood. Green for practices being followed, yellow for partial implementation, red for gaps that needed attention. We ran these as diagnostic sessions, not performance reviews. The goal was to help projects improve, not assign blame. The audit showed which specific practices each project was missing. One project had automated builds but no test coverage gates. Another had clear sprint planning but no regression test suite. Quality gaps weren't scattered randomly. They clustered around specific practices within specific pillars. We didn't demand overnight transformation. To start, teams identified 2 or 3 missing practices from their audit and implemented those first. Once those became habits, they'd add more. Every 2 weeks, the 3 pillar owners met to review progress. What's working? Where's the friction? What needs adjustment? Over time, good practices spread not just through formal adherence to standards, but through organic knowledge sharing. One team strengthened their client communication by sending sprint summaries after every iteration, and scope disputes dropped. Other teams noticed, asked how they did it, and adopted the same approach. What changed when quality became systematic in our delivery? First off, our delivery became more predictable. Sprint completion rates rose from 60% to 85%. On one e-commerce system, releases that used to slip by 2 to 3 weeks now ship almost to the day. Teams plan more accurately because they know what done means and can gauge their actual capacity. Then maintenance costs came down. One internal system saw maintenance spend fall 20%. That's 20% more budget for features instead of fixes. Post-release bugs declined because issues got caught earlier. Post-release quality got better as well. In one project, turning on static code analysis cut defects by roughly 30%. Simple mistakes vanished, caught automatically before they reached users. Releases sped up too. Take the team that automated their UI tests after a Polaris audit. Their regression testing shrank from 2 days to a few hours. They moved from monthly to weekly releases. The bottleneck wasn't development speed. It was confidence that nothing would break. Testing gave them that confidence back, and teams scaled without the usual friction. Onboarding dropped from 6 weeks to 2 in projects with solid documentation. New developers found answers in docs instead of interrupting teammates. When we needed to rotate people between projects or add capacity quickly, we could do it without the usual productivity crash. But numbers don't capture the full shift. Teams started treating quality as craft, not compliance. One developer said it plainly. Polaris makes us feel like professionals. We have our way of working, and it lets us deliver with class. Internal surveys showed higher scores on "I know what's expected of me" and "I can deliver high-quality results." Teams appreciated one thing in particular. Polaris preserved their autonomy. Developers stayed accountable for quality while keeping control over how they worked. That balance, clear expectations with room to adapt, is what turned Polaris from another process mandate into something teams actually used. People value environments where they can do good work, not constantly rush brittle fixes under deadline pressure. Lower turnover followed, which cut recruitment and retraining costs. Clients saw the difference in how projects ran. Deliveries hit milestones. Fewer surprises surfaced after deployment. Communication stayed clear. They knew where the project stood without chasing updates. That trust deepened relationships. Satisfied clients came back with next phases, broader contracts, referrals. Quality became a business differentiator, not just an internal standard. The problems Polaris solves aren't unique to Inwedo. Every software team faces the same tension: how to maintain quality when timelines shift, team composition changes, or complexity grows. Now you've seen the thinking behind Polaris. The ebook gives you the toolkit to apply it and practical guidance for your own context. What's inside? All 57 practices across 3 pillars, each with clear criteria so you can assess where your projects stand today. The complete audit process, step-by-step guidance on running a Polaris-style review with your team. Real implementation stories: what worked, what failed, and what we learned along the way. Definition of ready and definition of done explained. How we use them in practice, with examples you can adapt. The Pitfall Guide: how to avoid bureaucracy creep, team resistance, and the launch and leave effect. If you're a tech lead or engineering manager, you'll find a practical framework you can start applying. And if you're a business stakeholder, you'll get clarity on what systematic quality looks like and questions to ask when evaluating partners or your own teams. You'll find the download link in the episode description. That's it for today. Thanks for listening, and if this was useful, follow the podcast so you don't miss what's coming next.